Hello, everyone, and welcome to 10-Minute Elections. Today is Tuesday, July 21st, 2020, as I intended to upload this video yesterday, but ran into some technical difficulties in the uploading process, so as such that upload for today's gubernatorial election video has been delayed to today. Thank y'all for 20 subscribers and the continued support to all my subscribers and viewers. I really appreciate it. We've got new videos every Monday and Thursday concerning the wide world of electoral politics. All right, first orders of business. Civil rights icon John Lewis passed away on the 17th, just last week. So my respects, thoughts, and prayers go to him and his family. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Supreme Court Justice who has defeated cancer 4 times. It has been announced that she will undergo treatment for a 5th bout of cancer. I know I just recently discussed the Supreme Court, the 2020 election, so best of luck to her in that battle. All right, let's first get into the House map now. This is the RCP House map. It shows the Democrats now having 214 seats with 218 for a majority, and the Republicans 190. Keep in mind that Real Clear Politics really likes to rate races as toss-ups or very close to the middle, so this should be very good news for the Democrats to see that they are only 4 toss-up wins away from a majority in the 435-seat body. So the big news, and the reason that I'm showing the RCP map specifically, is because just this last week, and this is really unprecedented for RCP, they moved 20, yes, 20 House races, one column more favorable to the Democratic Party. And these were across the board. We have safe R seats that are now considered in play by RCP, although when RCP considers a seat likely, it's probably safe. We have seats that were toss-ups, now leans Republican, now toss-up, and some seats that were likely Democratic but have now been taken off the board, considered safe districts. So 214 seats for the Democrats, and this is great news. Let's check out the JHK 2020 House forecast. I'm pulling that up right now. And it is showing the Democrats as now over a 97% chance to hold on to the majority, the Republicans 2.8% chance to actually win back the House majority for the first time since they lost it in January 2019. So, point of interest here, the Democrats have 233 seats right now. They had 235, I believe, when the Congress started. They were never expected to gain seats until really now. It was always a matter of, can Republicans muster enough flips back to win the majority? Can Republicans make a sizable enough dent in the Democratic majority to potentially at least have some power in the House process? At this point, JHK is projecting the Democrats have 235 even seats in 2021, which is 2 more than they have right now. This was never expected to happen, but now we've got seats across the board being moved as more favorable to the Democrats, and this is huge because, just like RCP was showing, the House map is really not in play for Republicans anymore. 2.8% chance, and at this point, they just need to make sure they don't fall into more of a hole than they're already in. We see Colin Peterson is now favored in Minnesota 7th, according to JHK. Social Torres Small in New Mexico 2nd. Texas Democrats bigger favorites to pick up Will Hurd's district. We have Jared Golden given a 1.9% advantage in Maine's 2nd district. These are really shifts across the board. Democrats are now also favored in Georgia's 7th. So this is huge. And again, Republicans are now, and really for the first time, this was not expected even a month ago, Republicans are on defense in this year's House map. Another point of interest before I move on to the governor's election map, this is my most recent electoral map projection for 2020, and this one is even more favorable to the Democrats than the one I put out just last week. Seems like I'm putting out new projections every week and they're always getting more favorable to the Democrats, but this is a big one. You'll notice the red strongholds in the middle of the country are no longer safe. Specifically, in the last 2 weeks, the states Alaska, Montana, Kansas, Missouri, Mississippi, Indiana, and South Carolina, all considered Republican strongholds, I have moved into the likely column, which is only giving the Republicans 77 safe electoral votes. 77. And compare that to Joe Biden's 188. Democrats always have more safe electoral votes than Republicans. That's just how the map goes. But this is a really stark contrast. 188 safe electoral votes to 77. Also, I have moved the state of Florida into the lean Democratic column and the states of Iowa, Ohio, and Georgia from tilt Republican to toss-up. Very interesting to see that new map and consider that Donald Trump was supposed to be very competitive, not favored in his re-election bid just before the coronavirus hit the U.S. Okay, so gubernatorial election map. I have one safe seat for the Democrats, that's Washington, Jay Inslee's seat, and 3 safe seats for the Republicans in North Dakota, Indiana, and West Virginia. I will talk about West Virginia briefly because Jim Justice was elected in 2016 as a Democrat, then flipped over to the Republican Party in 2017, won his primary, and is heavily favored to win re-election there against now token Democratic opposition. And it's an interesting shift, and it's a shift that's been taking place all across the state as Joe Manchin becomes really the last Democratic holdout in the state of West Virginia. In 1996, the state of West Virginia went handily, nearly by a safe margin, about 15 points, for Bill Clinton. But in 2000, remember that there was less polarization back then, so states would flip more easily and by larger margins. But then the state went for George W. Bush by about 3 points in 2000 and has been redder and redder ever since. I do think had Hillary Clinton been the Democratic nominee in 2008 instead of Barack Obama, she might have been able to pull out a victory in West Virginia, but I'm not quite. I still believe West Virginia is conservative Democratic at heart, but that certainly equates to Republicans in elections. So as for the competitive seats, I'm sorry, I forgot to mark one more safe seat, and that's the state of Delaware. Democratic stronghold hasn't gone red since 1988 and won't for a while. Anyway, the state of Montana, I think I've talked about how Steve Bullock might have the upper hand against Steve Daines here. Greg Gianforte is the Republican nominee here, and his approval ratings are not good. The Democratic incumbent Lieutenant Governor Mike Cooney is going to be the Democratic nominee here, and I think this is a potentially very interesting race. The Republicans are going to do better here than in the Senate race, I think, but I'm going to leave it as a toss-up. Utah, that's a safe seat. I don't know why I didn't classify Utah and Delaware as safe seats. Missouri, Mike Parson, the incumbent Republican governor running for re-election in 2020. He was never elected. The last election was in 2016, but the former governor resigned over threat of impeachment from the Missouri legislature. Numerous scandals there. I'm not going to get into the details, but Mike Parson is not terribly popular, and that's why I've rated this race as competitive. I'm going to rate it as a likely. It could potentially move into the lean because Mike Parson, again, just is not a particularly popular governor. But in a state that's red like Missouri, I think this state will go along with the presidential election as a likely, not safe, likely Republican at this point. State of North Carolina, very competitive state. I have projected Joe Biden and Cal Cunningham to both narrowly carry the state, despite that I think it is still ultimately a pink state at the end of the day, partisan lean that is. So Roy Cooper, Democrat, very popular here. I'm going to actually classify this race as a likely Democratic. I don't think Republicans will be all that competitive here. I don't think they'll really want to be. They'll have better places to put their money. I think Roy Cooper should win re-election by 7 to 8 points here. 2 more gubernatorial elections to talk about, and they are up here in the Northeast. They're both in blue states, and I'm going to classify both as likely Republican. In New Hampshire, we've got incumbent Republican Governor Chris Sununu, who has been solidly with Trump. He won in 2016 by 2 points, but he's actually very popular, one of the most popular governors in the country. I think should cruise to re-election here. And Phil Scott, the incumbent Republican governor, although really a centrist in practicality. He has openly bucked Trump. He's much like Larry Hogan and Charlie Baker in Maryland and Massachusetts. He has faced Democratic opposition before, and that race narrowed up in 2018. But Phil Scott's a very popular governor. He has kept the Vermont economy strong, and his response to the state's coronavirus situation was very well received. So I think we should see him win re-election here. All right, thank y'all for staying with me. I know there was a lot to cover today, but there's a lot to cover in the world of electoral politics. Thank y'all for your interest and your support, and I'll see y'all on Thursday for a Montana State of the Day.